So, can you elaborate the ideal village concept?
Yes, certainly. The ideal village concept focuses on enabling all the essential needs for rural communities or underserved populations globally. And we want to do this through a holistic approach using sustainable technology solutions. And this, how we will accomplish this is by promoting collaboration amongst all the stakeholders, including villagers and government agencies, NGOs, startup companies, other corporations, etc. All the stakeholders in this to increase the social impact on the villagers' lives. So that's basically the ideal village concept. It rests on three main pillars. One is collaboration, using collaboration with the leaders of the panchayat or the rest of the rural communities, the NGOs, foundation, corporates, academic institutions, etc. And then the second pillar is holistic solutions. So, we have seen that whenever any piecemeal changes are done, like to improve the water in a village, without, if you just work on water and sanitation and you don't do anything about, say, healthcare or education, about personal hygiene, livelihoods, those kinds of things. So those piecemeal solutions don't have a sustainable effect. So we want to have a holistic approach where we address all the issues that are important for the villagers: clean water, healthcare, education, energy, livelihoods, sanitation, entrepreneurship, food, housing, everything together we want to impact. And then the third aspect, the third pillar of this ideal village concept is sustainability. We have to do this in a way that avoids some of the mistakes that were made with urban development in terms of pollution and overcrowding and all of those things. So it should be sustainable from an environmental point of view, from point of view of empowering women and taking care of the elders in the village, using natural pesticides, organic farming, biodegradable products, so that all of this combined with rainwater harvesting and things. So sustainability has to be part built into this whole concept of the ideal village.
And why is it relevant to the rural development?
So as you can imagine, the vast majority of Indian population lives in villages. The soul of India is in its villages. This was true when Mahatma Gandhi said it, before independence, and it is true even today. More than 70% of the population lives in the villages. And in many cases, the basic human needs are not being met in those villages. So it is time to really take a very systematic, scientific, data-driven approach in order to improve the lives of people in the villages. We are not in this for one region or another region, one state or one district, or no. We want this to be a global impact all across the world. The reason why we are focusing on India is because India is one of those few economies that has grown significantly in the last 20 years. It has become a role model for all the developing countries. The current government has made a strong focus on rural development. That's why we want to use this current milieu in order to launch this movement of rural transformation through the ideal village concept.
And what is the role of Stanford University in it, and why it is involved in this ideal village concept?
Yeah. So for many years, Stanford has had a um, has given attention to poverty alleviation, to removing disparities, economic, socio-economic disparities, in communities. Stanford is very much focused on how can we make a better world. And many of the people from Stanford have contributed, actually have been on the committees that put together the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs from UN. So in that regard, Stanford is a fertile soil for this kind of a program. Um, but we've For the last 6 years, we were having these conferences at Stanford, and many people would come from all over the world. But these NGOs and others said that, it's really expensive for us to travel all the way to California, and to stay in a hotel is very expensive. So can you have the conference in India? So when repeatedly people have talked about it, we also were encouraged by the Wheels Global Foundation, because they have been our partner for the last 2 years, that we must have one conference in India. And so this year, we contacted Banaras Hindu University and the Institute of Management Studies at Banaras Hindu. They are active partners in this year's conference. And so this year, it will be for the first time, not at the Stanford campus, it will be in India, so that more people can attend. They don't have to spend so much money to, come all the way to California.
Yeah, it's very
Um,
exciting.
Let me also add just one last thing.
Sure.
So, the role of Stanford is to help lead this conference, but also to provide a background of experts who can look at various technologies and can, look at the applicability of those technologies in rural settings. So that's sort of one role. The other is that because we have deep expertise in engineering, in climate change, and education, healthcare, etc. So our experts are available to people who have programs in those areas. The second thing is that where those programs are being done, Stanford can provide the analytics of, is it making an impact? We can do the outcomes, the metrics for the outcomes. We can measure that. So that is what is Stanford's role.
So many notable speakers are joining this year, and
Yeah.
also from past conferences. So can you just tell about that? Who joined in previous years and who are going to join this year?
Definitely. So we've had many leading lights who have participated in previous conferences, and the list is very long. We've had luminaries like Sri Ravi Shankar and Sri M. Talk about values, human values that are important for the ideal village. We've had people, uh, who are at the forefront of the climate change, like Paul Edwards, who's the chairman of the UN Committee for Climate Change. Robin Podmore, who is the president of the IEEE, Village Development Program. So these are luminaries who are well known in the fields of. From healthcare, we've had Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, who is the Chief Scientific Officer at WHO. And we have had, Katharina de Boheme, who is the Chief of the Cabinet for WHO. So we've had major luminaries in participating in all of the previous conferences. For this year's conference, we are delighted that a number of distinguished speakers have been invited, and many of them have even accepted our invitation. So amongst those, we are expecting Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi to help inaugurate the conference. And our guest of honor is the Chief Minister, Yogi Adityanath. We will have various ministers like Dr. Mansukh Mandavia would be, one of the health minister, Parameshwaran Iyer, who is the CEO of Niti Aayog. And then from the US side, we have Dr. Rahul Gupta, who is the director of the White House Office of National Drug Control. We have Dr. R.S. Sodhi, who is the CEO of Amul. We have various people who are top-notch. Dr. Manoj Nardeo Singh, he's the Secretary General for the African Asian Rural Development Organization. He's going to be participating. We have confirmation from Sri Ravi Shankar. He will join our conference again after a gap of a year. And also Sri Madhusudan Sai, who will talk about healthcare in rural areas. So there are, very important speakers scheduled for this year's conference.
Yes, that sounds very interesting. So one last question. Any accomplishment from previous conference if you want to tell? Yes.
Sure. There are many accomplishments. I'll just focus on a couple of examples because it would be hard to describe all of the
Yeah.
connections that this conference has led to, all the programs that have started from it. Take one example. We had a presentation from Ekal Vidyalaya. Ekal Vidyalaya is an NGO that has schools in almost 90,000 villages in India. And they're running these schools, they're training the teachers, they're providing a fantastic program. But what was being seen is that there were fairly significant rates of absenteeism or things like that. And on the other hand, one of the presentations was from a trust based in Bangalore called the Annapurna Trust.
Okay, yes.
Now, these Annapurna Trust people provide breakfast every morning to children who go to, government schools or villages and so on. So we had the two of them talk to each other. And because you see, many of the children in the village, their parents are farmers or laborers. They go off to the farm. So the children don't get anything to eat. They get up and they go to the school and they wait for the midday meal, But that whole morning of learning, the brain needs some energy. It needs, because when a child wakes up, this is my research has shown, children grow the most during the sleep. Okay, when a child is growing fast, they need a lot of sleep. So when they wake up, the body doesn't have any metabolic reserves. So the brain needs energy. They are waiting. They are hungry. And so when Annapurna Trust started supplying breakfast to those schools, the attendance improved, their academic scores improved, their growth parameters, children started growing, putting on weight, gaining height, their activities improved in terms of sports and things like that. So this was just one connection. Another connection was made with an NGO out of Naya Raipur, and they run this outreach program in tribal areas of Chhattisgarh. It's called the Divine Mother and Child Program. So they have a screening of 31 conditions that children can be affected by. And so they connected with Ekal Vidyalay, they connected with, some other educational NGOs. And now the health screening of children is also happening in some of the schools. So this is just one example of how people who are doing good work